from the 15th century, actually. It's an Italian writer called Castiglione, I believe. And he's written kind of a treatise, a manual of how to survive within the court system. And there's a lengthy section, it's called the Book of the Courtier, actually. And there's a lengthy description of how to succeed at any creative endeavor. And they talk about the three kind of elements that you need in order to succeed, whatever that means. But now let me think, am I going to remember this off the top of my head? And grazia. And what's the second one? Sprezzatura. And the second, sorry. I'll just use normal words for now. So essentially the first element is the element of knowledge, which means knowing your material, having done the practice, being in relatively good shape. The second element is quite close to what we would call letting go, actually. The Italian word is sprezzatura. And you can call it nonchalance, or you can call it some other kind of word, but it's this idea.
Healthy disregard for.
Correct. So yeah, in the 15th century in Italy, and still now, they call it sprezzatura. And then the third element is grace, grazia. And that is the moment when actually, if you have enough of the first two elements, the knowledge and the healthy disregard, then the grace can actually come into the room. And he describes, this Castiglione, he also describes the creative process, whether it's giving a speech, making a sculpture, or a musical performance. He describes it in a way of the audience is observing, but the performer is also observing. The performer observes when grace enters the room. It's really an extraordinary description. And I guess I brought that up because for me that just reinforces the importance of knowledge preparation, knowing one's subject matter, and being technically equipped in a way to meet those challenges. That's again not a very concise answer, but it's
No, because yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine who is into IT, and he writes programs, and one of his clients had a big time disaster that happened, and I messaged him and we were talking about it. I mentioned something that I wrote to him. I said, if you had this kind of problem that I have right now, I think you would have handled it better. So what I meant was not really in a self-pity mode, but it was more technical description of that your discipline is better than mine. But his response was, I would have been more peaceful with it. That's all. So I smiled because it basically means what we've been talking about, the first two elements. I was talking about the knowledge bit. He was talking about the letting go bit.
Yeah, that's right.
And well, grace is, he solved the big problem in like overnight.
Yeah.
So the other question that I asked him, which is related to what we've been speaking, is why still do it? You do well enough, and what is in it for you anymore? He says this is understanding the entire process. It is gaining knowledge of the field. It's only about that. So I thought it's very interesting. So your sense of letting go, actually everything is fueling everything else. So yeah, this is where I thought it's a fascinating journey. Everything seems to follow each other, but the element of grace, while it can be prepared for, or the element of what Ajahn Chah calls being unsure, or some other guy that I listen to sometimes, he calls it I don't know. He says that's the only thing to be sure of.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So it's a very interesting contrast. I want to contextualize the conversation because it is very nicely interwoven into the creative process, which is something before the start of the conversation you wanted to talk about. And
Yeah.
but the context remaining letting go. So would it be safe to say, if there was a take home to this entire thing that we're talking of, uh, you do the hard paces, you do the hard work, you work diligently, dedicatedly to get a hang of what is to be done.
Mm.
You do it as well as anybody else can, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even better than that. But again, have the ability to laugh at yourself or
Mm.
laugh at your own efforts without being very cocky about the effort that we put in.
Yeah.
And then that helps the letting go part of it,
Mm.
realizing that there are a lot of factors. We don't choose where we are born
Mm.
in a way which is comprehensible. uh, we don't choose our friends in a way because we belong to a certain neighborhood and we meet certain people knowingly or unknowingly. You and I met at Igatpuri, and we actually bonded over a ride back to Bombay, and
Yep.
which was a ride given by a third person. So we cannot
Yeah.
even claim that we chose to befriend each other.
No, that's true.
The sense of letting go is so strong because you're just the recipient of good things happening to you. And then, of
Yep.
course, we bonded over, and then we stayed friends uh, over a journey of so many years now, a decade or so, or maybe 7, 8 years for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when one looks at these things and one has the requisite experience and one is humble about one's own experience as well, uh,
Mm.
allowing the sense what we spoke in the first answer, the humility to accept that we might be wrong. And the
Mm.
answer is only one of the answers. You said, uh, I like the look in your eye because when you said that answer, there is an answer beyond this one. So there is something to look forward to. So the look was very that kiddish glee in your eye. And in my head also, the example was that when you leave kids, they don't have ready answers. So,
No.
so they are dishonest with honesty as well. So,
Mm. Mm.
so are you trying to get a chocolate out of me to say, actually, yes, but I want it. So they are very uh, naive and very
Yes.
uh, open to being naive. In
Mm.
today's day and age, unfortunately, the emphasis on being right or on having a point of view or being strong-willed or being successful only in one point of your one aspect of your life or any other uh, aspect of your knowledge, for example, or your field. Uh, just a couple of days back, one of the stories that I shared on the Facebook page of the Values Workshop, there's this friend of mine who teaches kids art,
Mm.
and I never thought, and she's a very good friend. I told her that I never thought of you as a great artist at any point of time, uh, except that when I saw you teaching kids, you just
Mm.
opened my eyes to a whole new world.
Mm.
You brought in the love that I had for all my teachers all my life. And
Mm.
that is something you do so well. And in the lockdown, she stopped teaching. And there was a lot of pressure on her to start classes on Zoom or stuff like that. And
Mm.
she told me, you know what, I I don't want to impose screen time upon kids any more than
Mm.
they have to.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I want them to love art. It should not be that they have to sit down 2 hours and learn art also.
Mm.
And what my kids are doing is exactly opposite. They'll end up sending me voice messages. If they have a problem, they do a video call and discuss it with me. So the class is on, but in a way where when they want it,
Mm. Yeah.
discuss their experiences with me, and I'm glad to share my experiences with them. But there is no class, there is no fixed time, there is no
Mm.
need for you to come in front of a screen and speak to me.
Mm. Mm.
And she says, within my family, within my friends, everybody thinks I'm a loser of sorts. But I want to tell you, you might understand that I'm very happy.
Mm.
And I told her, as far as I'm concerned, that's the only game there is in this world.
Yeah,
We're all
that's right.
happy.
Yeah.
So if letting go brings us happiness, I
Mm.
think worthy cause, irrespective of the short-term dissatisfaction with, we get in not winning the point of debate, or uh, I think it frees us. Even this
Mm.
creative process frees us because there is no fixed structure within our own this that we've got to do this, we've got to do this. It's okay. It will happen in its own time. If today is a bad day, I also want to emphasize on that one point that you made, uh, that resonates so well. Uh, I think Stephen King has mentioned in a book on writing. It's called On Writing, and
Mm. I don't know.
he says the one thing that I did is every morning I came and sat at a fixed hour in the basement, and I
Mm.
used to write till a certain point in the evening.
Mm.
I did not leave writing, no matter whether it was an inspired day, a good day, a bad day, a lousy day. It never matters.
Yeah, yeah,
I sat down and I did my work, and I treated it like work. It's not
yeah.
because a lot of times I think, because we are discussing the creative process, a lot of people talk about being inspired.
Mm.
Uh, Honestly, I've never had the luxury. I have never had the luxury. I was too middle
Yeah,
class. I had to work for a living. If you were
yeah,
paid for it, you had to deliver, and
yeah,
to deliver, you had to do the hard rounds before you had to. Because
yeah,
you had to work for every word. I had a problem with my language, with my spellings, with my understanding of concepts, with my fear of people from abroad when I used to talk to them, either being too excited or too uh, feeling too left out. Oh, I don't know what they're speaking, or how am I going to connect. But honestly, this sense of grace, I want to bring it down to a very basic level also. Every time I have befriended a person who is not my kind, or who doesn't seem my kind, I think they've just been kind. It's so beautiful. It's just so human that they have spoken
yeah,
the same things, and they have related, irrespective of, I think, the bias of knowledge, the bias of the color of skin or the country or any such thing. I think
mm.
letting go of any kind of thing is freedom. It's not, one should let go of the idea that it is fearful. Initially it is,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
overall I think it leads to freedom of some kind.
yeah. Well, when you mentioned that and this idea of the people we become friends with, yeah, particularly those that are not in our family. I mean, so yeah, people that you choose in a way to cultivate a friendship with. There is a certain kind of kindness in attention. If you give someone your attention, that is inherently an act of kindness. And it shows actually kindness and care. It shows that you're caring. And how much of that is a personal choice, that's philosophical. That's not really, it's a very big discussion, of course. But I get your point that, yeah, these kind of chance encounters where you meet someone and for whatever reason, this conversation that you have doesn't merely belong in one moment. It actually then seeds something which takes on a life of its own. And then to cultivate that requires further attention, of course. And yeah, I mean, look, that's the wonderful. I guess that's actually the blessing of memory is that there is a history, and so every time we give attention to someone else with whom we have that history, we remember all of the story up until the current moment. And if that kindness continues to be fueled by something, then of course, then the relationship is kind of in a way assured. It will keep blossoming. It will keep flowering. Um, Yeah, and that bringing it back to grace, that is not necessarily something that you can predict. There have certainly been people that I've met on courses at centers, or at concerts or at, cafes, whatever it is, people with whom a friendship would be imaginable or not difficult to imagine, let's say. And for whatever reason, it doesn't happen, and that's fine,
Yeah,
but
that's where the letting go comes, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
You had a good time, you had a good conversation, you have to let go of the moment. You got to accept. And if there is a friendship blooming,
Yep.
it is because you let go of certain preconceived notions,
Mm.
that the sense of grace, or I I am a little wary of the word grace, because again it gets into territory which mystifies the whole thing.
Sure.
But what we're trying to say is good things get a chance to bloom. Uh,
Yes.
Good experiences get a chance to bloom when you let go of your holding on to certain ideas of whatever you have.
Mm.
So there is always the chance that they may happen.
Absolutely. You talked about having a sense of humor about yourself as well. You mentioned it in passing. That's also something which I find incredibly important. Um, Again, I think that there's a tricky balance, because in a way you do need to believe in yourself, and we're all taught to believe in ourselves. This is a very individualistic way of thinking. But on the other hand, you just think, well, we're all human. We all pay our taxes. We're all going to die. We all go to the bathroom. It's,
Yeah,
um, you know, we're all completely different, but we're all from the same stuff. So, why should I kind of put myself on a level higher than anyone else? Yeah.
I think it reminds me of that Groucho Marx had written a letter to a club that I do not want to join a club when he was invited to be a part of it. I don't
Mm,
want to be part of a club that has members like me.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
guess
that's the
it's a,
perfect encapsulation of it.
yeah, it's a healthy sense of disinterest and disregard for oneself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a good enough discussion we had on letting go. Hopefully, the audience
Yeah.
like it, and I shall
Yeah.
see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Bunty. It's
Bye.
been great. Great. Bye.